Morning, guys. Welcome to the current affairs session. Right, here I'll be discussing all of the important topics that are necessary for UPSC, be it prelims or means. So today we're going to discuss 17th June's paper. Okay, so let's start. India's rainfall deficit. Right, it's talking about how India has a rainfall deficit and how everything is actually growing. Right, and the main reason why there is a rainfall deficit in India is because of the El Nino. Now, what is El Nino? El Nino is nothing but a weather phenomena where trade wind weakens, right? Trade winds happen from 0 to 30 degrees, right? North and south. 0 to 30 degrees, north and south. This is where trade winds happen, right? As the trade wind weakens, the water pushing from East Pacific to the West Pacific, right? Stop. Okay. So what happens is like the water, whenever the winds are going, what happens? The wind comes and it pushes the surface water away, from the Eastern Pacific to the Western Pacific. As the water is pushed away from the Eastern Pacific to Western Pacific, the cold water from the below starts to upwell. So there is a pressure difference. As there is a pressure difference, there is a shift of wind and there is rainfall in the western area. Okay, so that is why that is called La Nina. La Nina, which actually brings good rainfall for India. But when the trade winds weaken because of some things like AMOC or AMOC is mostly Atlantic, but things like those where the actual wind circulation or the temperature difference or the what you call heat difference is more. Okay, whenever these kind of things are more, the trade winds actually weaken. When the trade winds weaken, the water pushing stops. As the water pushing stops, all the hot water is accumulated here, so the temperature here and here is nearly the same, because here the temperature is warm, here also the temperature is warm. As the temperature is warm on both the sides, there is no transfer of pressure. Whenever, how does wind go? Wind always goes from high pressure to low pressure, meaning that there is some certain of some point of temperature change in low pressure and high pressure. So there needs to be a temperature change. When there is no temperature change, there is no shift of wind. As there is no shift of wind, there's no rainfall here. That phenomena is nothing but El Nino. Okay, so as India is going to experience a super El Nino, right? That is what they're calling it super El Nino. India is going to experience a super El Nino where it is going to witness almost very small amount of rainfall, right? So let us look at how things have happened and how India has experienced El Nino in the previous times. Here they have given some stats, right? They have given some stats. 2002 plus 2%, 2004 plus 1%, 2009 and 2014 is minus 47 and minus 44%. Now, what is percent? This percent is nothing but how much below is it from the normal range. That is what it is talking about. In 2009 and 2014, the rainfalls were minus 47% and minus 44% than the normal rainfall. Okay, this means that in the June time, right? It's talking about June, right? Everything is talking about June. Here you can see it is talking about June. It's not talking about other what do you call other months. It is only talking about June. Okay, and if you actually see, it's saying that in the June month in 2002 and 2004, the percentage in 2002 and 2004 was not much, but meaning that it experienced good rainfalls in June. But what you need to understand is that during the Super El Nino, it experienced more or less rainfall, right? Less rainfall than usual in the later months. Meaning that we cannot say that just because we are getting less rainfall in June, that means that we are not going to experience anything in September or October, right? But if you actually see here 2009 and 2014, the rainfall percentage in June was 44% and minus 47%. But what you also need to understand is that during this time, the other months experienced even severe amount of El Nino. So we cannot just look at June and say that this particular month's or this particular year's monsoon rainfall are going to be low. We have to ensure that the monsoon rainfall are being protected, but we cannot assume. Okay, so only when June, July, August, and September happen, only then we can say that this particular year's monsoon was very dry. Okay, despite super El Nino or whatever is happening, we cannot say that, we cannot say absolutely for sure that this is going to happen. Now, there are some things that we actually have to keep in mind whenever super El Nino or these kind of things are happening. And the first thing actually we'll keep in mind is that why why the super El Nino matters. Obviously, the reason why super El Nino matters is because most of our agriculture is dependent on monsoon. Right? So you can see paddy, you can see cotton, all these what you call plants, or all of these crops are highly dependent on what? They are dependent on monsoon. As they are dependent on monsoon, there is highly likely chance that we are going to experience some disruption in the crops, right? And as there is less rainfall, that means less sowing is there. Right? Less sowing is one of the causes why is one of the reasons why we are worried about what you call the super El Nino. And then obviously you can see that there is lower yields. If there are lower yields, then you'll have lower income. Right? If you have lower income, then you see lower demand. If you see lower demand, then there is lower growth. It is a vicious cycle, right? Obviously, you know that in economy, everything is a ripple effect. Even if a small thing goes and hits something, it is going to form a ripple effect and it's going to change everything. So, in that way, if there is super El Nino, right? Super El Nino meaning that there is less sowing. If there is less sowing, there is less yield. If there is less yield, there's less income for the farmers. If there's less income for the farmers, there's less demand. Less demand in what? Less demand in goods and services in India. If there is less demand in goods and services in India, there is less amount of GDP growth. As simple as that. Okay, that is one of the reasons why we have to be worried when when there's these kind of phenomena like super El Nino or El Nino are coming into existence. Okay, that is one of the reasons why we have to worry. Second thing that we have to worry is about is the food inflation, right? Food inflation. Now the ICRA says that uh, with this amount of super El Nino and the amount of low yield and low sowing, we can experience a food inflation of 0.4%. He's saying that we can experience a food inflation of 0.4%. But many people see this and tell that 0.4% is very low. Obviously, 0.4% is actually low. But for a country with 1.6 billion, right, nearly 1.6 billion population, 5.4, I mean, let's say the inflation is currently 5%. If the inflation increases by 0.4%, it is 5.4%. And for a country with nearly 1.6 billion population, 5 point, even a 0.4% increase in the food inflation is much, right? Many people actually are going to struggle a lot because many people do not have regular income. We obviously talked about how there is what do you call no protection for gig workers, and there's no protection for laborers, there's no protection for migration workers. When there's no protection for all of these kind of workers, whenever there's small change in inflation, who's going to be affected? It is these workers who are going to be affected. So, according to the ICRA, 0.4% inflation is going to happen, and 0.4% inflation is going to affect many people. Right? That is another thing that we have to keep in mind. And the third thing is RBI. RBI is actually worried. Why is RBI worried? The reason RBI is worried is because obviously there is what does RBI do? RBI controls inflation. RBI's main ideology is to control inflation. If it cannot control inflation, what will happen? Right? Higher vegetable prices, higher cereal prices, higher pulses prices. All the inflation is happening. It has to overlook how inflation should be reduced. It has to ensure that banks give right amount of money or right amount of loans so that there is no high amount of inflation. These kind of things that RBI has to monitor. Obviously, there is challenge of yield, there is challenge of inflation, there is challenge of stabilizing the inflation. These are the things that we have to be worried about when a phenomena such as super El Nino comes into existence. Right? That is all about this particular article. Next you have we have this uh, particular saying that the US-Iran peace deal conference spoils Israel. Right? It's talking about how US and Iran have recently talked about the trade peace deal. Right? Obviously, who's going to win? And it is Iran that is going to win. And you can see that they both obviously saw that there are long-term repercussions for continuing the war. US was going to lose its name because it was obviously losing, even though despite many bombings and many threats that US has given, Iran did not back down. Iran said that I'll not back down. You can do whatever you want. I'll win this war. That is what Iran said, and eventually Iran actually won. Right? If you actually see Iran, there is a trade deal. I mean, there is an agreement, peace agreement. In that peace agreement, majority of the clauses were for Iran. Right? The clauses for USA and Israel were very low. So what who won in this war? It is obviously Iran only. So, but there are things that we need to keep in mind that it is this particular editorial is saying that just like how US and Iran made peace agreements, right? If we want to resolve any dispute or if we want to resolve any conflict, it should not be through wars. It should be through peace agreements. You can actually see many wars have happened, right? Lebanon is there, then Israel, Iran, and you can actually see Gaza, Ukraine. All of these many wars have happened, and out of all of these wars, there is only peace agreement which stopped everything. Right? It is only the peace agreement which stopped everything. It was not what do you call uh, the wars. It was not the wars. It was not the bombings. They did not stop anything. It is a peace agreement or the war peace between the countries that has stopped everything. Right. That is the first thing that we have to keep in mind. Now, the what does the U.S. Iran deal reflects? Right. Obviously, the U.S. Iran reflects that U.S. has found a prolonged war as something that is damaging. Similarly, Iran also saw that uh, this war is going to affect its economic and defense infrastructure. So they saw that instead of going on an absolute war and going on our egos, let us make a peace agreement and let us stop this particular war and reduce the destruction. That is the first thing that came into their mind, and that's the first thing that they did. Right? And the second thing that we need to keep in mind is that Israel, right? He's talking about Israel, right? He's talking about Israel. Now Israel is dissatisfied because why is Israel dissatisfied? Because we know that Iran did not accept Israel. The reason Iran did not accept Israel is because they thought that that land that Israel is in is what is the land for Palestinians. No, not the Palestinians, like for the Islamic people. That is what Iran believed and believed that that is not the region that they have been given. So they did not accept Israelis at all. As they did not accept Israelis, they Iran openly said that we are going to make sure that we are going to eradicate Israel or all the Jews or the all the Palestinian people. We are going to eradicate. Right? It said that we are going to eradicate all of those people. When those kind of threats are there, and programs such as nuclear programs that have been run by Iran are into existence, obviously Israel would be scared because Iran said, no matter what, we are not accepting Israel. We are not going to let it stay alive. If they said that, there is high likely chance that Iran can bomb Israel. So obviously Israel wanted some amount of concession or some amount of what you call protection from the war. And in this war, there was no change in regime, and there was no stronger peace agreement. As there was no stronger change in regime, as there was no stronger agreement, obviously who is in loss? Israel in loss. Israel actually helped USA, and USA did not care about Israel, and it said that, yeah, I have some things to do. I have to win a war. I don't care about you right now. So you do whatever you want. I'll do whatever I want. And USA went on its way. Now Israel is the one who actually lost, and yeah, that is another problem. But what you have to keep in mind is that there is also this problem with Gulf countries. Now, Gulf countries thought that USA would help them. At the end of the day, USA would help them. That's what the Gulf countries thought. Saudi Arabia, UAE, all of these were like, yeah, USA is our big brother, and whenever there is a strike or whenever there's a global tension, USA is going to protect us. But what happened? There was high amount of bombings, and USA did not actually protect them at all. Right? It did not protect them at all. It was actually looking at what it can do. So that is another drawback for the Gulf countries. Now, while all of this is happening, there is China and there is Russia. Obviously, when US is struggling, China and Russia will obviously enjoy, because USA has always been against China and Russia, and as they are seeing USA struggle a lot and struggle a lot with their name, China and Russia are actually enjoying a lot, right? And China is like, let us see what is happening. And China is like, let us see what is happening and how the superpowers are going to react whenever there is a blockage in choke points. And if you actually see, Strait of Hormuz is a choke point. And when there was a blockage in Strait of Hormuz through Iran, how did USA react? USA started bombing, USA started making threats, started doing everything, but at the end of the day, it lost. So China saw something. China saw that USA, despite saying a lot of things, does not do many things. And it also saw how it reacted to the choke point. So that is one of the what do you call insight that China has gained. And obviously, Russia got some relief. And every time, if not for Iran and if not for Israel, what would USA do? USA would obviously concentrate on Russia. It will see which country is Russia trading with. Acha, India is trading with Russia. Let's put sanctions on India. That is what USA also did when the USA, Israel, and Iran war was happening. Yeah, Russia was actually breathing a sigh of relief, and it was actually enjoying a lot. Now that everything has happened, now Russia and China actually look forward to things and see things. Now, what about India? Right, everything has happened now. Iran and USA have a peace agreement. Now, with all of these happening, what is India stance? What should India do? Obviously, India should maintain a neutral position, right? Without maintaining a neutral position, right, India cannot survive. It cannot say that we are going to talk to the US only, we are going to talk to the Russia only. We cannot say that, right? We have to maintain a balance between all of these superpowers, be it China, be it Russia, be it USA. We have to talk to everyone. We have trade deals with everyone. We have what do you call uh, work with everyone. We have need of everyone. We have USA's need, we have Israel's need, we have Iran's need, we have Russia's need, we have China's need, right? We have a need from many countries. So we have to be on a very thin line. We are on a very thin line, so we have to walk in a balanced manner. Only when we walk in a balanced manner, we will be able to analyze things, and we will be able to make a good move that is good for our India, right? And obviously, after all of this happening, India should ensure that there's trade deals. Only when there are trade deals with India, then things will ensure that there's no disruption in our economic progress when there is any global event. Right? As you've seen, there is high amount of disruption due to global events. For example, let's say this war has happened. India started to launch E100 and E85. And this kind of disruption shouldn't have happened. You should not put this kind of burden on the citizens, because citizens are paying you the taxes. Citizens are contributing to the economy. Citizens are contributing to the economic stability. When citizens are contributing this much to the country, should not put burden on the citizens. That is as simple as that, right? That is the social contract theory. If you actually remember what the social contract theory says, social contract theory says that we, all the citizens of this particular area, are coming in an agreement saying that we are going to obey laws, pay taxes, contribute to the economy. In return, you are going to protect us from the external harm. Now, the external harm is not happening, but any external event is happening, harm is happening to the citizens. So that is something that India has to look into and ensure that all of the citizens are actually in a good position. Right? That is the thing that is present in this particular editorial. Next, long-term implications of Iran deal. Mm, rupee slide aided textile exports in 2025, 2026. Right? It's talking about how there is what do you call slide in rupee, right? How there is a slide in rupee, and despite this slide in rupee, there is no increase in textiles, right? Here they have given stats. What are the stats that are given? They have said that in 2015, right? In 2015, the net exports of the apparel is nothing but 29.4 billion, 47 billion, while that in 2026 is 35.80 billion. So these are the export numbers of apparels during 2015 and 2026. If you actually see, the amount of time is 10 years, and in the 10 years, the change from 29.47 to 35.8 is very small number. But there is another thing that you have to notice: the rupee depreciation. In 2015, $1 was equals to 65 rupees, whereas in 2026, $1 equals to 95 rupees. Do you see the difference? If there is high amount of difference, what should happen? There should be more exports. Why aren't there more exports? Right? For example, let's say there is iPhone, right? iPhone is there, and the cost of iPhone is 1 lakh 30, right? And when the cost of the phone is 1 lakh 30, right? When the cost of the phone is 1 lakh 30, and obviously when the what do you call price decreases, what happens? The demand should increase, because every person wants iPhone, right? That is a stature, right? And when there is high amount of increase in demand, what happens? There is increase in value of that sales. But that did not happen with exports. Why? Let's say we have 65 rupees per dollar, meaning that for, let's say, one shirt costs 65 rupees, then uh, demand is going to be 10%. But the change in rupee value, meaning that there's depreciation 95%, 95 rupees, right? The depreciation happened to 95 rupees, meaning that the goods or the shirts that are made in India are even cheaper in USA. So what should have happened? The export should have increased, but exports did not increase, right? That is one thing that we have to notice, right? And the reason the exports did not increase is because of many reasons, right? And one of the reasons is the global slowdown, right? We think that the demand should increase, but why should the demand increase, right? Did we ever think why should the demand increase? Just because something is cheap doesn't mean we have to buy it. For example, let's say you are you don't need phenyl, right? You do not need phenyl, but they're reducing the price of the phenyl. Would you buy phenyl? Why would you buy phenyl when you don't have any use of it? Common sense, right? So just like that, people around the globe do not need apparel, right? They thought that we have apparel, why should we buy from another country? Why should we buy at another cost base just because they are low? So they start buying, and there's a reduction in global demand. As there is a reduction in global demand, there is what do you call reduced supply or reduced exports in India. And secondly, there is high amount of US tariffs. You can see that US is high likely to put tariffs. As it puts high amount of tariffs, what happens? People or generations, I mean, or of the countries are hesitating. Let's say the depreciation is 95 rupees, and uh, right, meaning that the shirts will obviously be cheaper. But India puts, I mean, USA puts a tariff of 50%, meaning that this particular shirt that is 95 rupees is more than 95 rupees. How much is it? 95, 50% is nearly something around 130, 140 rupees, right? It's nearly 140 rupees. Why would someone pay a very high cost price? So this is the reason, this is another reason why people are hesitating to buy. One is the weakening of global demand. Second thing is the tariffs that US actually put. Despite lower prices in India, despite the lower prices that can actually be, US tariffs are actually increasing the price of that particular good. See, that is the second reason why there is a slide in textile exports despite a rupee slide. Okay, and the third thing is that competition from many other countries. Like, obviously, you know that it's not just India that is going putting all of the textiles. There is Bangladesh, There is Vietnam. All of these countries are what? They are labor intensive countries and they have very low income. I mean, sorry, very lower price. Let's say if the price in India is 95 rupees, they are going to put the price at 35 rupees. So where will it buy from? It will obviously buy from Vietnam, right? And there is high amount of shipping, better logistics. These are the things that are actually putting countries like Bangladesh and Vietnam ahead of India when it comes to apparels. So that is another reason why there is a slide in apparel exports, right? And what you need to understand is that whenever it comes to these kind of things, we should not look at value. You should always look at volume. The reason I tell you this is because let's say in 2015 one t-shirt was $10, right? One t-shirt is $10 and they exported 100 t-shirts. 100 t-shirt meaning it is $1,000. So the volume is 100, whereas the value is 1,000. Okay. Now in 20 after a few years, the dollar value or the shirt value increased to 14%, right? $14, right? And they started to import only 70. So what is it now? It is $980. The change in value is very less. It is only $20. But the change in volume is more, 30 shirts. This is the reason we should not look at value and we should look at volume. Every time we are looking at an export or if you are looking at a trade, we should always look at the volume, because we have to counter in the fact of inflation, we have to counter in the fact of depreciation, we have to counter in the fact of what you call tariffs. These are the things we have to counter in what you call calculate. Only when we calculate all of this, then value will be, then we can count the value. Otherwise, we cannot count the value. We should only calculate the volume. So that is another thing that we have to keep in mind. And obviously, we have some positive signs. We have many trade deals that have been happening. We have Oman's deal, Oman. Then you have EU, mother of all trade deals. And these are the trade deals that have been happening, and we actually have to be innovating more and increasing our incentives more for the apparel factories or apparel industries, so that all of these can ensure more exports, right, and more contribution to the GDP, right? These are the things that we have to actually focus on, right? So that is all about this particular article and also about today's news analysis. Thank you guys. Hope you guys have learned a lot. See you guys in the next class.